Well, it is sometimes the case that Christians will say things like homosexuality is wrong, it is a sin, but there's no reason for us to have laws against it in society. That is to say, when it comes to the public square, it is perfectly reasonable for homosexuality to be permitted and for homosexuality to be accepted and for it to be legal. And often what will happen with this kind of argument is that there will be this idea that the Bible teaches that homosexuality is a sin, but if we didn't have the Bible, it would be difficult for us to understand how that is the case. And the laws that we have in our country ought to be based not on the Bible, but on nature. So the idea is we have to exclude the Bible from the consideration of what would be a just or good law. We can only reason according to nature. And if something cannot be shown to be wrong according to nature, then it would be permissible in the public square. Now, with regard to the use of the Bible in the making of just laws, this is clearly contrary to the historic Reformed position. Just consider what John Calvin said in the Institutes of the Christian Religion in Book 4, where he says this: "Now, as it is evident that the law of God, which we call morals," this is talking about the Ten Commandments, "is nothing else than the testimony of natural law." So there's a perfect harmony between the Ten Commandments and natural law. "And of that conscience which God has engraved on the minds of men, the whole of this equity of which we now speak is prescribed in it." So all that is found in the Ten Commandments. "Hence it alone," speaking about the Ten Commandments, "ought to be the aim, the rule, and the end of all laws." The Ten Commandments. It ought to be the aim, the rule, and the end of all laws. Wherever laws are formed after this rule, this is the rule of the Ten Commandments, directed to this aim and restricted to this end, there is no reason why they should be disapproved by us, however much they may differ from the Jewish law or from each other. So that is what John Calvin said with regard to the use of the Bible in laws. Clearly, laws, what he is saying actually is that laws ought to be based on the Ten Commandments. But apart from that, let's just say we're dealing with the question of what if we were to try to make laws without the use of the Scriptures? Is there any reason why we could say that homosexuality is wrong? And that would to state the question another way: is there something from nature that teaches us that homosexuality is wrong? Now, you'll notice that this is actually the exact point that the Apostle Paul is making in Romans 1:26 and 27 when he speaks about the sin of homosexuality. The thing that he is actually pointing out is particularly true of this particular sin is that it is in fact a violation of nature. So what Paul says in Romans chapter 1 verse 26 and 27 is this: "For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error." The idea is this: in homosexuality, in this act, and in a society that is championing it and is saying that it is permissible, the idea is you're not just giving up belief in God. You are giving that up, but you're also giving up nature. You are essentially saying that there is nothing about nature that can tell us about the kind of union that a man and woman are to have, or that marriage is supposed to represent. All of that is gone. It is against nature itself. And the point that I'm making here is that with homosexuality, it is actually contrary to nature. And if we were to judge whether or not a law should exist on the basis merely of nature, the Apostle Paul is actually saying that homosexuality is fundamentally against it. Now, this would lead to the question of how. In what way is homosexuality contrary to nature? Well, the idea is this. When we think about nature, what we would say is that the way in which something is, its nature, tells us something about its purpose. That's the idea. And that purpose element is the thing that is being denied in homosexuality. So if you just look at the thing that is unique about the marriage relationship, would be the sexual union. And if you were to say, okay, based on the nature of men and women, is there anything that we can tell about the way in which we are by nature that would give us some clue as to the purpose of this particular union? And the conclusion you have to draw is, well, if you just look at the way in which we're made, biologically, you'd say, yeah, the union is actually between one man and one woman. This is the productive union, the union that can produce children. But even apart from the production of children, the union itself, if you were to say, just looking at the way in which the human body is made, the male body, the female body, you'd come to the same conclusion that that kind of union that is unique to the marriage relationship, that is a union between one man and one woman. You'll notice it's not even multiple men with multiple women. It is just one and one. This is to say, nature actually is just as much against, so to speak, polygamy as it is against homosexuality. The union would be between a man and a woman. You can even see this with children. When a child is born, even if there has been sexual immorality and a person's been sleeping with other people, you would still say that there was actually just one union between one man and one woman that actually produced the child. Because in the end, the union is actually always just between two, and it's between one man and one woman. So when we think about homosexuality, then, the idea is this. The claim behind it, and the idea that there would be permissibility, that there would be laws in accordance with it, the idea is that you are denying that there is anything in nature that teaches us about the way in which this union is to happen. It is, in that sense, a denial of nature. There is nothing about the way in which a man is made, the way in which a woman is made, that would give any indication about the intention for what this union is supposed to be. Now, the reason these ideas follow one from another, the reason why turning away from God leads to something like homosexuality, is because if there is no God, then it would be the case that all things are here by random chance. And that then we would say they weren't here on purpose. There is no actual purpose to nature. And therefore, there is nothing that we can learn from the nature of man or woman that would teach us something about this particular union. It's all just random chance. That is actually the thing that is being denied. It is a denial of any kind of purpose with regard to nature. And it being denied on such a fundamental level, with such a foundational question, is meant to be a way in which we say that it actually does not exist at all. That there is nothing in nature that we can talk about that would teach us anything about purpose, and that would go to even the fundamental question of the union between a man and a woman. That is the inherent idea. When we think about then the kind of laws that are passed in this country, or the acceptance of homosexuality in the public sphere, what we ought to recognize is that it is not the case that we are having morally neutral laws that are on the basis of nature. These are actually promoting a particular view of God, and it is the atheistic view. The atheistic view where there is nothing that we can understand about anything in reality on the basis of the way in which it has been made, the basis of the nature that it actually has. If we were to agree that nature can teach us things in the sense that the way in which something is by nature teaches us something of its function or purpose, then without question, the sexual union is only for a man and a woman. And if there is a relationship that is bound in connection with that union, marriage, then it would only be between one man and one woman. When we think about then the idea of laws, what would be just laws with regard to homosexuality? It is not actually the case that the dichotomy is, on the one hand, biblical laws, and on the other hand, laws that are done only according to nature, as if we had to choose between those things. The dichotomy is really this: will we have Christian laws that are based in the Bible, that are according to nature, or will we have atheistic laws which deny the Bible, are contrary to God, and give up all nature itself, that are contrary to nature at every step of the way? That really is the dichotomy. And so I'll leave it to you to consider which one is actually right and good.